Okay, I hope all of that works here. Looks like. Good to see you guys. Welcome to this Bodhicharyavatar session. Thank you for coming on this Tuesday, whatever it is, lunch or evening or yeah, let's see who's here. Okay, there are some new faces. Okay. Okay, let's start. First, please start to develop your bodhichitta, basically, Start by tuning your motivation and making it as vast as possible, including everyone. Because everybody wants to be happy and free from suffering, but most people don't know the causes for happiness, and therefore sadly or tragically, they accumulate the causes for suffering. So therefore, they're endlessly circling around in different realms and states of pain and unhappiness, dissatisfaction, frustration, sadness, and so on. So therefore, please, develop the right motivation that we study and discuss here on Shantideva's wisdom for their sake. For the sake of all sentient beings who want to be free but don't know how to do that. So please, in your own words, in your own mind, in your own heart, maybe develop that motivation of bodhicitta, and then we start. Okay, and since I see some new faces here, maybe I just tell you where we are and why we are here. So what we're obviously doing is we are going through the Bodhicharyavatar, which is like a classical Mahayana text by Shantideva. And we are in the 5th chapter, and we are there because we studied the first chapters, which is about in the first chapter, generating the enthusiasm to develop bodhicitta by, of course, understanding the benefits for oneself and others for the short term and for the long term. And then in the 2nd and 3rd chapter, we sort of prepared our mind to be like the proper vessel to then really take the Bodhisattva vow, which we do in the 3rd chapter also. And this preparing the proper mental state or vessel is super important because, as you know from Madhyamika teachings, nothing arises just by itself or with no causes or no conditions, but everything is like interdependently arising. So therefore here also we develop or we accumulate different mental qualities in order to be the proper host, so that bodhicitta feels happy in our heart and being. So this we did through the practice of the 7 branches, which I'm sure you also know from Vajrayana practice. In most sadhanas you will find these. Yeah, and then there was the actual Bodhisattva vow in the middle of the 3rd chapter, where we promised and committed ourselves to follow the footsteps of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the past. And yeah, we promised to do likewise, and step by step train ourselves. And the step-by-step thing is a big, big topic here, and you can find that in different commentaries, like step by step or gradually in Tibetan rimpa, rim, it is that is always emphasized because we should not, what is it? Yeah, we should not go beyond our limits and boundaries or borders too much, too fast. We have to sort of respect where we are, but then of course we have to extend our boundaries little by little. Of course, we have to extend our boundaries or our mental horizon. Otherwise, we don't move anywhere. We don't generate anything. And but also we should not be too harsh with ourselves. I think that is the word, So we should be gentle, and be gently um, training ourselves, and so that we are not regretting what we might have done. So, and that was in chapter 3. And then afterwards, of course, we rejoice, and Shantideva is saying, now you are part of this noble family of the Buddhas, so therefore you are qualified to be called a Bodhisattva. And yeah, if you compare that to other texts like Shantakirti or other texts, there's always a debate when we are the valid person that deserves to be called a Bodhisattva, because usually Bodhisattva is a label for beings who are on the first bhumi or higher. But according to Shantideva, it could be us, even on this bhumi 0 or -1 or wherever you feel you are. We can still be called Bodhisattva once we have generated bodhicitta, the wish to attain Buddhahood for all sentient beings' sake. If we really mean that, if we have taken the Bodhisattva vow, then we are sort of, a Bodhisattva in the making, of course. But as Bonhoeffer Rinpoche says, like fake it until you make it. So of course, it's very artificial in the beginning, but then it becomes more and more natural. So therefore, my point that I'm trying to make here is like, in the 3rd chapter, then from then onwards, we are accepted as a bodhisattva. That means we are a daughter or a son of the noble family of the Buddhas. And therefore, we better behave behave well or behave like them, and not, I don't know what Shantideva was saying, like spoiling that noble family, or but we try to be a good representative of that noble family. And with that, and rejoicing about that we have now taken the Bodhisattva vow, and we are asking others also to rejoice, that concludes the 3rd chapter. And then the 4th and 5th chapter is then again on causes and conditions, but now in regards to discipline. So here in 4th and 5th chapter, we are learning mental qualities that we need in order to really live a disciplined life. And I don't know about you, but in German, discipline is not something you want. It sounds very like pressure-ish or forced. But here, in Buddhist terms, discipline is really a good thing. It's the second parameter, basically, which allows us not to harm anybody, but to help everyone and to tame our own mind. And that is just good for everybody and everything, if we follow that kind of discipline. So it's not considered to be a burden, to have a discipline or rules and regulations, but it's actually simplifying our lives, because we are then able to focus on what is really helpful to do, what is really beneficial to do for ourselves and others. So, and in order to have that disciplined mind, we need like a couple of mental qualities, and that is what Shantideva is teaching about in the 4th and 5th chapter. So there we learn about mindfulness, or we learn about vigilance, or introspection, or awareness, or conscientiousness, and those qualities, and these qualities, they again create a proper mindset and a proper frame of mind, a properly tamed mind and trained mind, so that we can then really practice bodhicitta and live the life of a bodhisattva. So that is the main idea. And we talked already in chapter 4 about mindfulness a lot and conscientiousness. And now we are in chapter 5, where the main point here is vigilance. But all of them, they are sort of little bit overlapping, and they are all working on our mind to make our mind focused, to make our mind be able to remember what our teachers told us what to do and what to avoid. And they also help then our mind to check itself, if we are tempted to do something that would contradict the instructions that we received. And in case we detect that, then these qualities also help us then to come back to what we actually should do and what we actually should avoid. And so here in the 5th chapter, where we are, is actually, I think, verse 66. But I learned recently that that might be a little bit sometimes not so easy to understand what Shantideva is talking here about. So therefore, I briefly want to repeat something that starts in verse 59. And this here is the case that Shantideva is using like a pedagogical tool in order to overcome our excessive clinging to this body that we have. Yeah, please keep these words in mind, otherwise the whole thing doesn't make sense that Shantideva is teaching here. The idea is, of course, as I said, at that point we are already bodhisattvas from Shantideva's point of view, so therefore we have a total and thorough understanding, of the preciousness of human life, of our existence. And why is it precious? Because we can use it to see the truth. We can practice the truth. We can familiarize ourselves with the truth, and then we can accomplish the truth. In other words, the Dharma. So therefore, and we have all the, I don't know, physical and mental devices and gadgets ready to do so. So therefore, our life is precious. Our body, therefore, is part of that definition, is also precious. But, so keep that in mind. But the problem is still that we get attached to it too much. And that, as we know from all different Buddhist sayings, that attachment is always the problem and the culprit, and that needs to be cut. We know that from how Tilopa was teaching Naropa, but any other teaching, of course, also. So that attachment needs to be cut, because attachment is what is binding us to samsara, right? So therefore here, Shanideva's approach is to cut that attachment to our body, that we don't have overly attachment to the body. So that is the aim here from verse 59 onwards. Because we tend to have attachment to the body because we identify with it, unfortunately. And so, yeah, he only wants to cut that excessive attachment, which doesn't mean we should neglect our body, but it just means we should not care for our body like over the top. We should not aim for extravagant or luxurious food all the time, or clothing and all of that. And Shantideva is also trying to point out, that our body is very mortal and very impermanent, and therefore it's also it's a precious tool, but it's not the aim. As a Buddhist, it's about mind training and not body training, basically. So that is the basic idea that is maybe good to have in mind when we go through the verses. And yes, it's an approach. He wants us to cut the attachment that we have in our mind towards the body. And of course, there are other methods also where we cut the attachment in our mind directly. but here Shantideva is talking about the object, the body that we are attached to. And so he's sort of trying to show us that the object of our attachment, our body, is not really clean, is not really pleasurable, is not really permanent, is not really one single entity. So that is his aim. So he's sort of talking about the object of our attachment, which is the body. I'm sure you have seen that also in I forgot the author, but in Greek mythology, there is also this fox, who wants to eat some grapes, and then the grapes are hanging too high, and the fox can't reach them, and therefore the fox is in his mind is saying, "Oh, the grapes are so sour anyway," and by that, even though he has attachment to the grapes up there, he's sort of okay not to have them. I mean, he can't reach them because they're too high, but then in order to calm his mind, he is convincing himself that the grapes are sour anyway, and that actually he doesn't want them. So that is similar here what Shantideva is doing, I think. If we think we want a permanent, always beautiful, always clean body, then that is like grapes hanging too high. That is an impossible mission to achieve that. And therefore, Shantideva is telling us, like the fox is telling us the opposite. Oh yeah, actually the grapes are sour. Or in other words here, the body is actually impermanent. The body is actually filthy. Or the body is, you can't even eat the body, Shantideva is saying at some point. So the body is basically useless. You can only use it for as a vehicle or as a tool to help other beings. Okay, sorry, that was quite a lengthy introduction, but I thought since there are a couple of new faces, I maybe try to give the background. And so let's go. Yeah, still I will summarize the first verses, which we covered last time already, and then we go slowly into the new verses. So please have all this stuff about the body being precious, but being precious and rare, but in mind. As you know, Germans like but. So here, keep that in mind. And then from verse 59, Shantideva is saying, why are you so concerned about your body now? Why are you so attached to your body? Because when you die, and then I don't know, in Tibet, the vultures, or let's say in Germany, the worms and insects, they eat your body, and then you don't mind. So if later you don't mind it anyway, so why do you mind so much now? And then also there's a big topic starting in verse 60 where Shantideva is saying, okay, since you will die anyway, body and mind will separate. So therefore, why do you even think the body is yours or the body is you? Because body and mind are they are sort of strangely connected at the moment, but it wasn't always like that, and it will not always be like that. Because body and mind are of total different substance, therefore they will be separatable and they will be separated. I think as sort of brainwashed Buddhist, we all believe in that, right? That the mind is not a result of our brain, or we also don't believe that our mind dies when our body dies. So we believe in separability of these two. And so if that is the case, Shantideva is saying, if you leave your body anyway, then then that is obvious that the body cannot be your main object of training or attachment. And then he is saying in 61, okay, but if you think your body is so super beautiful and clean, then just build a body a look-alike body, you know, out of sandalwood, you know, and imagine that this is your body, and then that might make you happy, because that is very easy to maintain, this wooden body. It smells good, and it's clean. Whereas our physical body, he's saying, is like a machine, you know, out of bones and muscles and so on, and there's a lot of dirt stuff in it. And then Shantideva is inviting us to mentally dissect our body, you know, and check if there's some bodiness in the body, you know, if there's some true essence in the body. And then, yeah, this is going on for 3 verses. So, and of course, we know that also from Madhyamika, we will not find any body in the body. There is not a true body in the body. You know, the body is maybe is like the forest. You know, it's just a label we put on the trees. So the body is similar. You know, it's just a label we put on body parts. And, you know, like head, neck, hands, arms, and so on. And then the accumulation and the gathering of those body parts we call body. But we cannot find a body in each of these body parts. I mean, that is a standard Madhyamika thought. And then, of course, in each body part, we also don't find that body part. Like in a hand, you don't find any hand, but you only find bones and flesh and skin and so on. And then further, you go further and further, and actually, I don't know, you end up with molecules, atoms, subatomic particles, and in the end, from Buddhist point of view, we end up with emptiness. And then the last verse we talked about last time was verse 65, where Shantideva is saying, yeah, and your body is also not really helpful because you can't eat it. You can't drink your blood. And really, like in English, it's written, you can't suck your intestines. So I'm just quoting what Shantideva is saying here. So he's saying it's basically useless, the body. And of course, we know in Vajrayana, of course, that we even offer human flesh theoretically in Gana Chakra practices, but yeah, this we only do because we want to go beyond preferences. So that is not the point here. But from Sutra Mahayana point of view, yeah, that is how Shantideva is explaining it. Okay, guys, do you have any question? Then shoot. You can write or talk, whatever you like. I think we are not so many, so you can just unmute yourself and we can talk. If not, then we continue. But you know, I'm getting irritated if nobody is interacting with me.
I have a question, Arne.
Yes.
Well, regarding to mindfulness in general, for me, when I'm trying to practice like this every day, it seems to me like it's very uncomfortable because I realize that my neurosis, you know, like my mental neurosis, if I'm aware each moment what is happening in my mind, I realize that it's a total mess. So I drop it. Like I don't want to do this anymore. So I want to have distractions. So I fluctuate into practice and see my neurosis, and the other hand, distraction. So my question is, how you can get friends with mindfulness? You know what I mean? I don't know if you understand me.
Of course. So the thing is, okay, to use maybe the present virus situation as an example, the more you test about the virus, the more virus cases you will find. If you don't have any test, then you don't have any case. of virus. So that's my answer. So mindfulness is like testing your mind, you know, all the time. You're checking your mind, what state it is in. You know, does it have the virus, like kleshas or distraction, or not? And therefore, if you test it often, if you have a lot of mindfulness, yes, then you will notice there are a lot of kleshas, lot of confusions, lot of distractions. But if you don't test, then you don't notice these kleshas and distractions. But of course, they are still there, but you just don't notice them because you don't apply the test of mindfulness. So therefore, if you have the feeling you are, yes, you are quite distracted, or you have one klesha attack after the other, then that is great that you are detecting that, you know, because that that discovery is the result of your good application of mindfulness. Got it?
But it's very uncomfortable.
Yes, of course. Of course. That is, you know, if you go to a country where they test a lot of people about the virus, then they will have a huge number of patients, and that is very uncomfortable, you know, in the world. Then you look like the loser, but actually you did it quite well.
Okay, thank you.
But then, different from the virus situation, the good thing is, this is only the beginning stage, sort of, that one feels very overwhelmed of the findings in one mind, you know, the kleshas and the distractions. But then if you just continue doing mindfulness step by step, then actually the mind becomes calmer. So it's just the initial tragedy of detecting the problem.
Okay.
But at some point, yeah, the tragedy will dissolve a little bit, because
I hope so.
of course.
Thank you.
And yeah, you're welcome. Jigme Khenso Rinpoche gave once an example. It's like, you know, that I think from shamatha practice, you know, first our mind is like a waterfall, and then it's like a stream of river, and then it becomes like a soothing, gentle river, and then it becomes like the very still ocean. And the beginning state is waterfall. So, and you are now with mindfulness detecting that, you know, and you are in the boat and falling down the waterfall. Of course, that is scary and unwanted, that experience. But then please don't jump out of the boat, he said, you know, but continue to practice, because then it will be the river and finally the ocean.
Was this the waterfall, river, and ocean? Is it?
Yeah, I think I think there are actually 5 stages, but the river has like different wildness or calmness. Yeah, like a very wild stream, and later is a more calm river, but it's still moving. But then the still ocean is sort of the destination.
Okay.
Yes, and the waterfall just looks like unmanageable, but it's just a stage, you know. So don't get disheartened or discouraged.
So in one of the teachings, that the teacher said that there are these waterfall is the first extreme, and the third extreme is like extremely like almost dead kind of a situation, and it's recommended that you are in the river stage where your mind is moving but still in control. And is that so? Like, because correct me if I'm wrong. Uh,
I never heard somebody explaining these examples like that, but
okay.
I definitely always heard that our aim is, of course, not to have no thoughts. So, like,
Yeah.
of course, our aim is not to have a total still ocean, because then I think we would end up to be a broccoli or something. You know, a broccoli also doesn't have thoughts, and so that the broccoli would be the winner, um, but that would be a pity, because thoughts are basically the creativity of our mind, or in Vajrayana terms, more like Sambhogakaya. And if we want to stop that creativity or Sambhogakaya, we would lose a lot. So therefore, in meditation, it's not really to to stop the thoughts, but just to be aware that there are thoughts.
Okay.
But in the beginning, it's still helpful if the thoughts calm down a little bit. So therefore, the teacher you quoted, whoever that was, I'm happy that he or she is not saying we should stay in the waterfall. But but so it should be calmed down a little bit. So we are in this river area, and yeah, if you then use the higher methods like Mahamudra or Dzogchen, of course they don't aim at all to have a still mind, because it's just too uncreative, you know.
So a still, open, spacious mind will still need to be like a river. It doesn't need to be like an ocean.
Yeah, but ocean normally also has waves, so you can really stretch the examples how you like. You know? But the ocean normally refers to really having stability and deep down complete calmness. But of course, on the surface there are some movements which are good. And the aim is really the aim is of course not again to have complete stillness and tabula rasa in your mind, but to have stability in the movement. And that is, I think, the ocean example. You know, we have stable awareness, but still thoughts coming and going. Good questions. Okay, back to the body. Since, or is anybody, just unmute yourself and say what you want. So in 65, Shantideva was emphasizing, you can't eat or drink your body. But then in verse 66, you might have the idea, okay, then maybe it's okay then to be attached to the body. Or Shantideva is suggesting that if you have the aim, you know, to offer your body once you're dead to the wild animals, you know, vultures, jackals, then jackals or I don't know, foxes, then or hyenas, then that is fine, you know. Then at least you do something with your body, in case that is your aim, to offer it later to the animals. Then it's okay to guard your body, you know, and protect it well now, if that is your motivation. That's what he's saying in 66. So, and generally he's concluding, if you really use your body to benefit others, like to practice virtue, then that is, then it's sort of okay to guard our body. But then again, you see our body as a tool, you know, through the body and of course the speech that is connected to it, we are benefiting others. And and that's why the human body is precious. I mean, not every human body, but when all the criteria are fulfilled. But then, of course, please always remember, and that's why, again, we talk about mind training and not body training, that our mind is basically the queen, you know, or the king or the boss of the body. So our body is hopefully doing what our mind wants. And therefore, if our mind is like very altruistic, then yes, our bodily actions will be very altruistic too. But if our mind is very mean and negative and malevolent, then of course our physical actions and verbal actions will be the same. So I think that's why also, His Holiness the Dalai Lama says, you know, like, the human mind can be either like a god and helping all beings, or could be like a demon, you know, and then manifesting very negative outlook or behavior or conduct. But again, from the Precious Human Life teachings, yes, this human body is usually considered to be very good and a good tool, and has all the things we need to practice the Dharma. So therefore, we can celebrate that, but then sort of also celebrate quickly or and use that body quickly, because it will die at some point. That is certain. I'm sure you have heard that from the Kadampa teachers also, right? These that the how is it said? Yeah, it's certain that we will die. It is uncertain when, and at the time of death, it is certain that only the Dharma will be of help, but not our money, not our family, not our good looks, or, or whatever, But at the time of death, only the Dharma, in other words, the truth, can help us. And that is to be kept in mind when we also read here the next verse, 67. Mm, where it is really about this impermanence, and death, as you might know in Buddhism, is like symbolized or personified in the form of Yama, this Lord of Death. I think it's the same guy who's holding the wheel of life, that you might have seen in the entrance of monasteries. So Shantideva is saying that this Lord of Death is just super merciless, or not really empathetic with you. Like Yama, the Lord of Death, or maybe it's a woman, I don't know. No, but I think it's depicted as a man. So the Lord of Death is not waiting, for you until you have time, or whatever, until the movie you're watching is over, or until you finish your project that you have started. But the Lord of Death can come anytime. So that is the second uncertainty, right? That when the Kadampa masters say that the time of death is uncertain, so the lifespan is uncertain. And that is, I think, obvious. We can die at any moment. As an unborn, as a baby, as a senior citizen, or in the middle of our lives. And then what will the Lord of Death do? It leaves our corpse, our body behind, and offers it to the animals. And this I'm sure you have also read in different treatises about impermanence. That really nothing can stop death. Of course, if you apply the right causes and conditions, maybe proper medical care, or long life practice, of course, you can have an influence on the lifespan if you do the right things. But still, it will not prolong the lifespan forever. And in earlier times, like during the Mapa, the translator, during his time, there was a practice that if you feel that you're dying, let's say because of old age, then there was a practice that you can transfer your consciousness in another fresh corpse. Not another, because you're not a corpse yet, but in a fresh corpse, so they could then transfer their consciousness in that corpse and then live on in that body. But that is also that transmission and tradition and practice has sort of died. So therefore, that is also not an option anymore. And so therefore, remember death. How's it called? Memento mori? No, mementi morto? Well, something like that. Remember death. Be aware that we will die, and therefore, no need to be super attached to the body. Anything to discuss on that? Oh, Connie is there. Memento mori, exactly, yeah. Remember you must die. Yeah, I saw that in some Christian monasteries. They write that, and also in Prague, in Czech Republic, there's a big church where that is also represented a lot, you know. So I think, yeah, to remember one's mortality is always good. Not to make us depressed and not also to make us panickish, but just not to waste time, and use whatever we have now. Because as Nagarjuna said, you know, you never know what is first. You know, your what is it? Yeah, your next morning or your next life or something. I don't. I'm never sure with this quote, but I think it was like that. So we never know if next morning I'm just waking up with this body again, or if I'm already in another existence, you know, and maybe running after fleas because I'm a frog or something. Of course, that can't be, because a frog needs time to be a frog. There are first these other things. I don't know the names, you know, these baby things that are swimming in the lake. But anyway, so we can quickly have a total different body, totally different reference points, and or we could be stuck in Bardo for a long time. So all that can happen even before we wake up next morning. Yes, thank you, Natya. Okay, then verse. Oh, yes. If we are not to waste time, how can we know what we should do? Google it. No, thank you, Sari. Of course, Google is a possibility, but it also depends on what you want to achieve. And yeah, recently Ponapa Rinpoche taught about a text by Rongsompa, and it was very important in the beginning always by Rongsom that to say, you know, if you want to attain liberation, then you should do this or that. But in case you're not interested in liberation, of course, don't do all that, you know. So therefore, my answer to you, Sari, is yeah, first you need to know what you want to achieve. If you yeah, want to go to Moscow, then take the plane, you know. But in case you want to achieve liberation or Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, then yes, study the Dharma as hard as possible, as detailed as possible, as good as possible, and then contemplate on it, and then cultivate it, practice it, familiarize yourself with it, and live it, and then you will reach that result of liberation. Liberation from the things that are bombarding Natya at the moment, you know, this distractions and negative emotions, and all of us. I don't know, me at least. I have plenty of them. So then, liberation means to be free of those and have accumulated or have developed all the qualities. So if that is your aim, that liberation or Buddhahood for the sake of sentient beings, all sentient beings, then yeah, the Dharma is the best to show what to do and what not to do. And since we are here in a Mahayana classical text, the answer is, yeah, do bodhichitta and avoid everything that is non-bodhichitta. In other words, develop as much compassion and love and as much wisdom as possible, and avoid as much self-centeredness as possible. Does that make sense? Okay, then back to Shantideva. Yeah, verse 68. Maybe you have noticed I'm not even reading the root text anymore, because I guess you all have them, and there are so many different translations. And yeah, so in verse 68, it is about that if we have employees, in case you have a company or whatever, and then you have employees. So if these employees don't work, or if they run away or if they misbehave, of course you don't give them their wages, Shantideva was saying you don't give clothing, to your servants if they are unable to be employed. Of course, they don't get salary or wages, if they just don't do their work, and you don't give them clothes and food and so on. And likewise here, Shantideva is then saying in the second half of verse 68, so why then you give so much wages or salary, like extra food and expensive clothes and so on to your body, when your body is basically not really doing what you want and is also leaving you at some point because it dies, So therefore, we should not pamper it too much, and there's no need to give the body all the things if the body is so unreliable and not really acting according to our wish. Please always remember what we discussed in the beginning about the context of these verses. But they will come back, the context will come back in two verses about the preciousness of human life. And then in verse 69, then of course we should give, of course, the necessary wages to the body. We should, of course, give the food and clothes that the body needs, But the body doesn't need like a 5-star menu, five-course menu and 5-star all the time, Or so don't give it too much, but also don't give it too little, But give it whatever it needs to be healthy and to have a long life, So don't fall into another extreme, like not feeding your body at all or not giving clothes to your body. That is, of course, another extreme that is not meaningful, because then the body will die or be cold and starve, all of that. But also no need to pamper the body too much. Don't go in that extreme of luxury all the time. But we should really strive to make our life meaningful. And Shantideva is concluding with this in this verse again, like if our body is not really doing something beneficial, then we should not reward it. But verse again, verse 70 then is saying we should understand that our body is like a vehicle, or like a boat is one thing that Shantideva here is saying. In Tibetan, I just write it here in the chat if you want. It's called ten. It's like cherten, stupa, like the support for offering, stupa. But here 10 is just support, so the body is important, but see it as a support, see it as a vehicle. Like yana in Sanskrit, Mahayana, Theravada-yana, Vajrayana. It's only a vehicle. Everything is like a vehicle to bring you from A to B, to bring you from ignorance to wisdom, to bring you from samsara to Buddhahood, I think that is clear. So that is what vehicle means. And since Shantideva is, or it's translated in English at least, as a boat, there was a big thunder just here. So since the body is like a boat, then the usual example, again with the ocean, but in a different meaning here, the ocean here means like the ocean of samsara. So we can use the body to cross the ocean of samsara to reach the other shore of Buddhahood. So that is how we should use Sorry, guys. I don't know. My phone also didn't work. Thank you for your patience. This was really like it was at the same time, the thunder and the flash, that lightning. So that means it's here, and it really broke the internet for a while. Thank you for your patience. Yeah, so the body as our boat, so this life as a vehicle, to reach Buddhahood and to get out of confusion and samsara. Wait, I just have to. Yep. Okay, that should work. And yeah. Okay, and then Shantideva is saying if we really use our body like that, to benefit others, then we are transforming our body in the Buddha body, like, which is like, manifesting the three kayas, that then leads to the case that whoever is seeing us, whoever is talking to us, whoever is touching us, whoever is smelling or tasting us, that this is beneficial for that person, that we can liberate liberate others through all their senses, and because we have that strong bodhicitta in mind and that strong aspiration to do so. And I'm sure you have heard that also with Songtse Khyentse Rinpoche, because you might wonder why he's always wearing so many funny hats and so on. And Degu Khyentse Rinpoche told him once that that he should make sure that he's been seen and noticed, because then people look at him and then create a connection, and by that are already benefited. And of course, you can argue, yes, why should we do it? Because we are not of the same caliber as Songtse Khyentse Rinpoche. Yeah, maybe not, but of course we have the same Buddha nature. Or what we can also perceive ourselves as is like a bridge, like whoever is seeing me, through that may they have the connection to Dharma, to the Buddha, to the teachers. So in any case, if we really use our body like that, as that vehicle to attain Buddhahood, then we will attain Buddhahood to benefit sentient beings. And and you might want to wonder, what is our main aim? Is it Buddhahood or benefiting beings in Mahayana? And actually, it's benefiting beings. So that is our aim. And our capacity is at the moment, or at least my capacity is quite limited. So therefore, I better improve my capacity, and therefore I better become a Buddha in order to benefit beings. But that is still the main aim, to benefit others. And then, of course, in Mahayana sense, not just any benefit, but bringing them to the fully enlightened state of Buddhahood. Okay, anything to clarify or debate upon?
I had a question.
Yes. Namaskar.
So, so, so you go on all the levels of all the bhumis, and you decide not to become a Buddha. Is that still like that? Like you don't, because on relative terms or whatever, that you say that you are allowed to keep an ignorance about, there's something called enlightenment, and then you keep being a bodhisattva, staying in samsara but not going in nirvana, and then you don't go into Buddhahood, but you reach the 10th bhumi, but you don't cross over. How is, like, what is that?
I think there are like 3 different stories in your question. so
So we stop there. Like, I mean, we don't kind of aspire. What if like somebody just becomes a Buddha?
yeah. No, I will answer all 3 stories. I think the first story is that you're quoting Tsongtse Khyentse Rinpoche, who is actually quoting Shantideva. You can read in verse 76 in chapter 9. That is where it says, for the time being, we should keep the ignorance to think enlightenment is possible. So, in other words, at the moment, we should have, not should, but it's okay to have attachment, to enlightenment, to Buddhahood, to benefit sentient beings, even though that is dualistic and conceptual. But at the moment, since we live in a conceptual mindset, we use the tendency to use concepts, but we replace negative concepts with these positive concepts. So therefore, at the moment, Shantideva or Khyentse Rinpoche is saying, yes, it's okay to have that dualistic mindset and think there is enlightenment somewhere, and at some point. So that is the first thing. So that is a little bit different than the other 2 stories. And the other 2 stories is like, the second story was that you said, that really some bodhisattvas, or in some texts it is said, bodhisattvas should keep a little bit of an ignorance in order to relate to sentient beings, because sentient beings are nothing but ignorance and completely confused, let's say, and Buddhas are totally free of ignorance and totally unconfused, so therefore they cannot actually relate to confused sentient beings, and therefore, as a bodhisattva, it is said it is good to keep some ignorance to still be able to relate and to be relatable. And yes, and some texts actually say that is true. And nevertheless, the third story is that other texts also say that yes, we should not stay in samsara, but we also should not go into nirvana, how you said. So therefore, maybe stay on a high, pure bodhisattva bhumi. But they say Buddhahood is actually free of both extremes of samsara and nirvana. And if we use those terms, then it's said, yeah, samsara is the confused mind state, and nirvana is the mind state where you wanted to achieve self-liberation, yeah, only for yourself. But Buddhahood is another type of nirvana, which is the non-abiding nirvana, which is beyond usual samsara and usual nirvana. And that is actually a state we should aspire, because there we have the best possible wisdom and best possible compassion, and therefore we can benefit in the best possible way. And that is a little bit contradictory to what I said earlier, that some scholars say it's good to keep some ignorance in order to relate to sentient beings. Because in the third story, a Buddha is still a better helper than a 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva. So therefore, don't keep the ignorance.
Okay.
Yeah,
because there's another angle to it. Okay,
yes.
if I may. Sure. Now, in words of my perfect teacher, they say that there are 3 types of bodhisattvas. Okay, one is the king's like, who is completely like, oh, I have been completely or devoid of all the ignorance, and I lead my sentient beings. So that state is also pretty much like that stage which we just talked about, right? Like completely minus or clean of all the ignorance and obscurations.
Yes, become a Buddha first and then help others. That is the king-like attitude, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and,
so then you don't come back to the next lifeline relatively by karma, but you come by will.
Yes.
To help sentient beings.
Yes. And it is said that the shepherd-like bodhisattva is better because you don't care about your enlightenment, but you only care about the others. So you let all the sheep in front of you, and you say, "I'm last." And in and it is, but then they also say the king-like is more practical, because if you are not a king, if you're not a Buddha, then you don't know what to do. You don't have the power and to help, and therefore the king-like is practically better, but the shepherd-like is theoretically better. And then there are scholars saying, yeah, but because you have the shepherd-like bodhicitta and you wish others to be Buddhas first, that actually makes you Buddha first. It's like a paradoxical intervention.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, because for me, when I was contemplating on it, I felt like the shepherd one would not, having the shepherd like bodhisattva attitude won't give that confidence, because you yourself, we ourselves in that shepherd like situation won't know where we stand, and how would we help sentient beings if we ourselves are not like minus some ignorance or obscurations, if not entirely.
Yes.
Because the shepherd is right in the end and leads all the sentient beings. So
yeah, and the idea is the shepherd in this example of bodhisattvas and Buddhas. The idea is that the shepherd is not a Buddha, so he doesn't even have he has never traveled the path so far. So that's why I think if you really go that shepherd style, then it's difficult to lead beings because you don't know the way. But then, of course, you have Guru GPS. You can ask the Guru, maybe, where to go. But still, it's faster if you know the way, and you know your sheep.
But then you can go the middle way, right? You have the boatsmen. You're going along with them.
Yes.
That's also good.
and yeah, also it's totally okay to have that motivation what we have out of these three, and then practice that, and then maybe it will change also at some point. But usually they say king is more practical, because then you really know about stuff and you can really help. But of course it could be egoistic. I want be Buddha and then help. Therefore, yeah, in your motivation, being to wish to be a shepherd is a good thing. And this is like Shantideva also, he said, I will never think of my enlightenment, but only of the enlightenment of others. So that is like the ultimate lodrong, which is great. But practically it doesn't seem to work, but then actually, because it's such a completely altruistic attitude, therefore it works even better,
So ultimately it depends on the motivation, like, yeah.
As usual.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Yvonne, can you say more what you mean with this? And Sari, yes, of course, that is really the struggle. We need wisdom and compassion and skillful means to really help others, to really benefit others, as you say. At the moment, I have I have like a limited compassion and limited wisdom, and therefore I can only guess, how I can benefit somebody. I can only assume, or in fear. But it's a very coarse guess job what I'm doing, when I'm trying to benefit somebody. But then, yeah, the more I reduce my defilements, my confusions, and the more my compassion grows, the more I really know. So my guest job will be refined, and at some point I will really know how to benefit others. Yeah, it's really related to what Pallavi asked. And so it's but that is the truth, as long as I'm a samsaric being, I have only samsaric perception, and therefore, yes, it's a very confusing situation that I'm in by default. As long as I have ignorance, then that confused perception is my default setting, and nothing really good can come out of that, especially if I'm interacting with somebody else who is equally confused. Then then it's very likely that many misunderstandings are happening. Therefore and that will come in the 9th chapter. Therefore, wisdom is the most important thing, to remove the confusions, to remove ego-centeredness, to remove ignorant perceptions, and then we know much better how to help. Yvonne, can you elaborate what you meant? What is the Vajrayana view of this? What is this?
Sorry, I should have but to write down is a little bit complicated.
No problem.
Coming late. Sometimes I get a little bit confused about the Mahayana. Is what you said before is like the view of the Mahayana is as a bodhisattva we're gonna be, and that's what we do in the aspiration prayers, also saying like we may help other people till not a single one remain in samsara, and we go last. And I understand that perfectly. But on the other side, sometimes I'm a little bit confused about the Vajrayana view, which seems Bodhisattva is the underlying base of everything, also of the Vajrayana.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And in the Vajrayana, for me, can you elaborate that a little bit for me, like for a kind of very conceptual mind, to say, look, there we say in the Vajrayana, and even the Dzogchen saying, you can be enlightened even in this life. I mean, like you can, and it's Buddhahood. It's not the Bodhisattva. You're going to be a Bodhisattva, but by the end of the day, you want to be enlightened. So sometimes I'm getting a little bit, it seems sometimes controversial, but maybe only for me.
I think only for you.
Okay. Okay. But can you clarify it? You seem so smart and have always answers of everything.
So you're really not confused when you say Mahayana is the foundation of Vajrayana, Yes. So bodhichitta is like the motivation is really the same in Sutra Mahayana and in Vajrayana. It's bodhichitta. That is the motivation. The only difference is in Sutra Mahayana, what we study here, the methods are different than in Vajrayana. So apparently in Vajrayana we have more powerful, more skillful, more effective methods, and therefore we reach the result quicker. But the result itself, again, is the same in Sutra Mahayana and Vajrayana. So the only difference are the methods. The motivation is the same and the result is the same, but only the methods are different, and therefore the time span of our journey is different. So that is all. So please say something to that.
I don't dare.
No, really, no. But does that clarify already, or
no? I mean, like what you say is like the time span is different. That's kind of an important message, and I understand it like that. It's kind of just like it shows. Forgive me to say that, but sometimes it shows like. And I love these Mahayana texts, and I think I can stay just with the paramita trainings for the rest of my life, and maybe a couple of lives more, and that's it. I mean, that's no, but that's enough already. But on the other side, it's very tentative, the Vajrayana kind of view, right? And the methods, they're very, I understand that. But it doesn't seem like that this is what Pallavi was saying, only Bodhisattva. It seems so much, for me, the goal in all the Vajrayana, whatever we hear or see, it seems so much enlightenment and Buddhahood as the goal. And you say the goal is the same. And I kind of sometimes don't see the goal is the same.
We all want to attain Buddhahood, but just with different yanas or methods.
Okay.
It's really, that's, I think, safe to say.
Okay, I accept that.
But apparently, Vajrayana or Dzogchen you mentioned, they have that powerful method that it doesn't take like 3 countless eons, but 1 life, 7 lives, and so on to attain that. So therefore, the journey is shorter. On the other hand, I mean, we cannot attain enlightenment in the future anyway. It's only now, right? So that, I mean, all yanas would agree with that. It's not, it has to be now because there is no other moment anyway. But again, then to realize that now needs a journey through all the habits and negative patterns we have. And therefore to really penetrate all these, that is more possible or less possible depending on the antidotes. Is it confusing more? But basically everything is happening now. That is, I think, also practically good to remember. But Milarepa said, why are we not seeing it now? It is only because of our habits, or our distractions. So that is the only thing to cut through or penetrate through. And then let's see what methods are best for us to do so. Also, when we say Vajrayana methods are more powerful and skillful and faster than Sutramaya methods, that is also a huge generalization, which of course is good to to maybe have if you are in the Vajrayana. Otherwise, other people would not like us to have that generalization. But it is also the case that maybe for you, Yvonne, Vajrayana is the best and fastest method. But for me, maybe Lojong is the method that really tackles my hang-ups that I have at the moment, and therefore maybe at the moment Lojong is the highest method for me and the fastest. So just because generally Vajrayana is the fastest method doesn't mean that it's the fastest for everyone.
Yeah, I think in general is a problem is that we hang on the concept of time. That's the general. I think it's a general thing, and then if we talk about fast or something, and we see that here and now, sometimes for us this linear time span is really very difficult because it's a concept, and we have to get over it, and we have that's I think sometimes, and then we want to see a timing, a timeline, and what's next and stuff instead of just eliminate that time thing. It's a very difficult process. That's why I'm asking these stupid questions, because then you grab a concept. Yeah, I think so. Thank you.
No, but I think the question you asked was also asked by Avalokiteshvara to Buddha Shakyamuni. When he liberated so many beings, and then he turned around and then saw that there are so many infinite sentient beings still suffering in samsara, and then he went to Buddha and said, it takes so long time, to become a Buddha and or to liberate beings. And then Buddha said, to become a Buddha, yes, it's like 3 countless eons, but actually that is as long as it takes to like one spark go out of the fire and land somewhere, I'm sure you have heard that. So it's so relative in the end. And also what they say, 3 countless eons, what we need on Sutra Mahayana means like we need to accumulate the merit that is in average accumulated over 3 countless eons. But again, maybe we can do that if maybe we can accumulate the same amount much faster, like faster than average, again with the right methods that are right for us. Yeah, I mean that's the same, like with the time is always relative. If you really like somebody, then half an hour phone call seems like 10 minutes, that kind of thing. But if you don't like somebody, half an hour phone call maybe sounds like 3 countless events to you. Yeah. And Tiziana is saying, I came from a Mahayana background. I was taught that the only reason Buddha comes in this world is to act as a bodhisattva. Yes, from Mahayana, that is exactly the case. And doesn't matter if this bodhisattva is practicing Vajrayana or not. Yes. The idea is bodhicitta is the motivation. We want to help sentient beings. And who said that earlier? I think Pallavi. Yeah, but the bodhisattva is then not controlled by karma or negative emotions, and therefore doesn't have an uncontrolled rebirth. But this bodhisattva, she or he, can willingly choose out of compassion and bodhicitta where, when, how to be reborn to be of most benefit. So that is the idea. And I was saying, doesn't matter if Bodhisattva practices Vajrayana or not. That's why I mentioned that, because, and the same reason is also why I mentioned earlier Sutra Mahayana always, because actually there is Mahayana, and in Mahayana we have Sutra Mahayana and we have Vajrayana. So Vajrayana is part of Mahayana actually. That I wanted to stress. Okay, I saw a thumbs up. Is there something else? If not, we can try to cover 1 or 2 more verses. Everybody's still alive? Okay. And then maybe 71. Here from 71 to 83, Shantideva is telling us how we can become more skillful in virtuous actions. And they're really sometimes very easy advices and instructions. And he starts by saying in 71, now while there is freedom to act. That means, yes, now that we have more a free mind, free of attachment, not so chained and imprisoned by emotions or thoughts, then of course we have the freedom also to express those healthy or sane mind states in body and speech. And so then he is explaining, how should we express that inner sanity or basic sanity? How should we express that in face is the first one. So he's saying, like facial expression, I should always present a smiling face and cease to frown and look angry. So the idea again is we have control over our mind, and therefore, yes, we can control our body, for example, our face. And there, it's maybe good to smile, of course, not fake it, and not maybe also don't be creepy and stuff. But to make other people feel comfortable, and maybe to help others or to brighten up their mood a little bit or to inspire them. I mean, that's even though it's so superficial, but it works, If you guys are smiling here in Zoom, that makes a difference to me, Instead, but if you would show what is it, frown and look angry, of course, that would influence my mood and ability to talk. So therefore, try to have a positive outlook for the sake of others, and remove any facial outlook or expression that could be scary or uninspiring to others. And then, Shantideva is saying then regarding the speech, I should be a counsel of the world. This means like being friendly, being honest, truthful, open, without deceit or conceit, not insulting, not harsh, and so on. In Vajrayana, we talk about 60 types of melodious speech, so you can look that up if you like. Yeah, but the main thing is, especially when we look into this Bodhisattva practice of gathering disciples, then speech is one important thing. So we should have a pleasant speech, that what people like to hear, encouraging, gentle, not harsh. And also we should, what was the other one out of these four? We should walk the talk, basically, I think we should live by what we say. We cannot say, oh, we all should drink water and then secretly we drink wine, or we cannot say, yeah, it's good to be vegetarian, but then we always have our sausage barbecue in the evening, so it should be like coherent, our speech and our action. Otherwise, it's not really convincing to others. I think Gandhi was really stressing that point, that he always only wanted to talk about things that he really have experience of, that he really did, otherwise he felt it's like fake and too theoretical. Yeah, and then verse 72 is really straightforward. I just read it. I should desist from inconsiderately and noisily moving around chairs and so forth, as well as from violently opening doors. I should always delight in humility. Wait, I copy-pasted because my reading was so bad. Yeah, I don't know what to say, but yeah, the gentleness, the sound of silence, loving the quietness, like this humbleness. That is how bodhisattvas act and behave. Yeah, we try to not pollute the earth or the others with noise that we make. We don't want to disturb anyone by creating so much noise, It's opposite of like a fighting couple, where you slam the doors to create the noise to annoy the other person. But so here we are constantly unslamming the doors, and yeah. Also, we tried a little bit to be unnoticed or undercover. No need to be heard or smelled or seen. Of course, not in a inferior complex, or low self-esteem way, not like that, but real humility, real modesty, real gentle attitude, where we just don't want to create more disturbance in this world. It's already wild and turbulent enough. So yeah, we just don't want to add to that. But again, not like a inferior complex, because we are hopefully aware that we have the Buddha nature. And in case you have forgotten, then yeah, read some of my chair's texts, for example, Uttara Tantra Shastra, where I think it's very convincing, where Buddha nature is established. So that is always good to know, when we feel depressed or not good enough, then remember, we have the Buddha nature. And yeah, maybe the simplest explanation of Buddha nature is, maybe that is also a good conclusion, because it refers back to the first question of Natya with the too much pleasures or distractions. The good thing, all these defilements, they are removable. That is sort of the proof for Buddha nature. Yeah, everything is removable. It will never damage the Buddha nature. It will not corrupt the Buddha nature, and all these defilements will not stay forever, because they never actually have really existed. So they are all removable, like the clouds in the sky. The blue sky or the sun was never really clouded, but just temporarily. From our point of view, we couldn't see this blue sky or the sun, but from the sun's or blue sky's point of view, they have never been touched by any of these clouds. They're just temporarily, there's some weather going on, but that's it. And therefore, yes, it doesn't matter how much, how thick the clouds at the moment or how many, they will just, they will vanish at some point. Yeah, and that is sort of the best base to be modest and yeah. Okay, I think maybe that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining here, and thank you for your patience when the lightning was striking. And yeah, since it's always a little bit meritorious to even mention the name Shantideva and Bodhichitta, so whatever merit there was, please dedicate to everyone. And yeah, no matter if, okay, of course, no matter gender, race, sex, yeah, race, whatever, it's color and doesn't matter, not even only humans, but to all sentient beings everywhere. Yeah, please dedicate whatever positive came out of that, so that they, yeah, remove all their clouds. Okay, thank you guys. See you soon if you like.
Thank you, Arne.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Please stay healthy.
Thank you. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye-bye.
I'm ending it now.
Bye, everyone.